Hey flower friends, this is Pam, Flower Patch Farmhouse, and today we are going to talk about repotting an African violet once it has developed a neck. I don't know if you can see that well in here, but you can see it's almost like a palm tree, and the soil line is way down here and the plant is way up here. Ideally, you want the lowest leaves of the plant at soil level. So this has gone too long. I should have done this a long time ago. And sometimes if your African violets are growing very, very vigorously, you will need to do this like every 6 months to a year to prevent it from getting that long. You don't want it to get that long. I have just been negligent. Here is another example. This one is just very, very short. It's maybe an inch, if that. So this is a perfect time. And I should have done that one when it was this size as far as the neck. And here is another one. This one's a little bit more, I'd say 1.5 inches. So 3 examples of African violets with a neck. Now this happens as the lower leaves, sometimes they deteriorate and they get taken off or they dry up and fall off. And that is when it develops the neck. It's all part of it. So it's not a negative that yours is doing this. So first of all, we are going to take these out of their pots, and I have some more pots that are ready to go. This one will be for the 2 that were in the larger pots, because when you're repotting, the standard size violets, they like about a 4-inch pot, and they bloom when they are not root bound, but the roots have filled the pot. So that's what we want. This one is a smaller pot because I had a whole bunch of starts and I just put it in a smaller pot to begin with. And I'm going to go ahead and pot it back up in about the same size pot because I want this to bloom. I have a bunch in these little containers which I will either gift or sell. Soon have a plant sale because I got a lot of starts of things. So that being said, I'm going to point the camera down so you can see what I'm doing better at the table as I do it, and then we will get them growing. I have my container of potting soil here. You can use a regular potting soil that you've loosened up a bit with some grit, some perlite, or you can buy African violet mix. A lot of times specialty mixes are a little higher priced, and it's not really necessary to get a specialty mix when you can just treat it with a little bit of, like I said, grit, perlite. I also have horticultural sand that I use for different things. I also have a whole YouTube video and blog post on my DIY potting soil that I make from the bulk compost I get from a local turkey farm. And you can also probably find bulk compost like that at a local landscape supply company. Just so you know, if you do a lot of things, it is more cost effective than buying individual bags of potting soil. Okay, so I'm going to point you down and we'll get to work. All right, so let's start with the smallest one. Let me find a small pot that I want to put it back up in. I could put it I'll just go ahead and put it right back in this pot. So I'm going to take it out of its pot. And it feels like it's kind of stuck in there. I don't want to break it. Okay, so now I have room that I don't have to necessarily cut the bottom of this off. I'm just going to loosen this up a little bit. And then I'm going to put some more potting soil in here. And this will that give me room? No, I still got to take some more out or cut more of the root ball down. Because what I want to do is I want to bring the soil line to the top of the pot, but I want it to be right here at the base. So I don't think I have enough room in here. So I guess I am going to have to take more of the soil off of this to get it down in that pot and have plenty of fresh soil down in the bottom while being able to cover the neck portion. So let me see, let me get down in there. Is that level with the pot? Almost close enough. A little bit more. Now, you notice there's not really a whole lot of roots coming off. They're right around the edges here. and a lot are staying on. There's some right there, right here at the base. So let's get it down in that pot. And these that I break off, if I want to, I can start new ones from. This one's kind of wobbly, so that one's just toast. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it with more potting soil and firm it in and make sure my neck is right there at the surface of the soil, and it is. So that's all good. I just broke another one. Now, breaking off some of these around the lower edges is not going to hurt it at all. So there we go. So that one is firmed in there. And once it gets watered, it will firm up a little more. So you're still a little jiggly, but that's okay. It's going to firm in. Now here is, I'm going to just leave the leaves over beside that one so I know which one it went to. I'm not going to waste this. There's no need to throw it out. They're not bug-ridden or diseased, etc. So I can reuse it. It's not a big deal. Let me get this one loosened up a little bit. This one is not super moist right now, so it's a little bit difficult. Now you can really see the neck of this one. And, you know, it's got a few faded blooms. Those can come off. But we really want to get this down in the pot. So there's all the roots. I will put some soil down in there. Put this down in there where this is level with the top of the pot. And now I'm just going to fill it up with more soil. My little soil scooper is missing, so I'll just use this cup. Try to be as gentle as you can, but if a few leaves break off, again, don't worry about it. I'm going to trim off this faded bloom. My little nippers. Make sure it's in there. Good. Dust off your leaves that might get some soil on them. Sometimes I use a little toothbrush or a paintbrush, soft paintbrush, to do that. Get it all well and dust it off. So that's all very well and good. I'm going to leave the two really pretty blooms on there. You notice the leaf of pattern of this one is different than this one. See, this one's more ruffled the edges and pretty, and it throws out long bloom stems, which is an attribute of this one that I love. Let me see if I can see any little more buds coming up. Looks like there might be some more coming up from the center. I got some dead things under here I need to trim off. Firm that in. So there's number 2, all ready to go. Now this one, I probably should put it in a new pot. This pot's crumbling, but that doesn't bother me that much. So on to number 3. Now I'll use one of these pots. What I like about these is they have a little self-watering mechanism, and you can water these from the bottom. And a lot of times I will put a little perlite in these, because perlite will hold oxygen. So even if I might overwater, etc., the roots going down there won't rot. They'll have plenty of oxygen to go ahead and thrive. I do avoid overwatering my African violets, though. So, all right. Put a little soil there on top of the perlite. And let me see how deep this is. See, I need to put it down much deeper. So we're going to, usually you would just cut off the end, but mine is so loose and the roots are so spread out well that I'm doing just fine in, okay, just pulling some of the soil off. I didn't really even have to cut the roots, Okay, so let me see, where's the soil line going to be? That's still a little too tall. So I need to take out some more of the potting soil. And we refill. You know what? I still don't have it deep enough. So I am going to have to trim off some of those roots. So you can do this with a sharp X-Acto knife, or you can use clippers like I'm doing here. And just clip them down shorter back to the pot. Of course, I didn't add more perlite because I'm lazy, but I do know how not to overwater them. Plus there's added now extra perlite in the soil. So let's get this down in here. You may think I am a little rough or a little too lackadaisical about how I do things. You don't have to be picture perfect with doing these things. I have grown African violets, all kinds of other flowers for 40 plus years, and this is how I fly. So plants want to grow. Give them good conditions and they will reward you. So we're pushing this down in here, firming it up. Make sure that the soil line, look, soil line is right at the top, or I should say the top of the crown or stem is at the soil line. So there's no of that trunk showing. And I will get my little brush for these. Let me see if my paintbrush is firm enough to brush these off. Get that soil off of there. You could also spritz this off. Spritz it off and then let it dry. It's not a complete no-no to get water on the leaves. They will, water on the leaves too frequently can leave water spots, marks. It's not going to kill the African violets. You may have heard that you're not to get them wet at any cost. And how can that be? They're from the rainforest of Tanzania. Rain means leaf getting wet, etc. So always go back to where a plant comes from to see whether maybe something that you've heard or read about growing a particular plant can actually be true. Now, it is best, it is true, of using rainwater because then there's no minerals that collect or can stain the leaves, etc. So it's our city water, treated water, and hard water that can really be the issue. So that's cleaned off enough. As it dries, it's still a little damp, it will come off even more. So there we have our African violets that were growing long necks, now planted up to where the neck is no longer showing. And like I said, if they're very vigorous and a lot of bottom leaves are coming off as you're growing them, you may wish to do this every 6 months. As you can see, I don't. So don't think that you must. It's just how you would do it. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to repot your African violets if they're growing a long neck, and or if you just want to repot them in general. This works just fine for that too. I have a question for you. You could leave a comment in the description box below. What special tricks do you have for growing African violets? After I posted my how to propagate African violets from leaf cuttings, how I do it, it's a little bit different than a lot. A viewer or a reader of my blog emailed me and told how they do it, and I tested their method and I really liked it. So I'm always learning and looking for extra special tips. So leave me a comment below if you have one for me, and I will see you in the next video.